Good morning. Hello. We invite you to make your way to your seats. Before we begin our soul singing today, I invite those of you joining us online to grab a chalice or candle that you can light when we light our chalice today. Together, we invite you to sing hymn 1046 in the Teal Book, Shall We Gather at the River, verses 1, 2, and 4. Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod, with its crystal tide forever flowing by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. On the margin of the river, washing up its silver spray, we will walk and worship ever all the happy golden day. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river. Soon our pilgrimage will cease. Soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God.
Good morning. It is, and you know, after it stops raining, there'll be lots of sunshine today. Welcome to our multi-platform space here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami, or as we affectionately call it, UU Miami. As a member of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Association of Congregations, we bring a liberal religious voice to the great city of Miami. I am Reverend Tom Capo, and I'm the minister here. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a white male with a newly trimmed beard this morning, and, you know, little whiteness up here where my hair should be. I'm wearing a tie that has starfish on it, and a stole, well, my stole has, well, you think those are what do they call it? Seahorses. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I should have known that. Anyway, and up here with me is Joseph Toledo on our piano. He's just amazing. And Carly Pulaski, who will be, as you have already heard, leading us in hymns and performing this morning. UU Miami wants to acknowledge that we gather in the traditional lands of the Tequesta, Seminole, and Miccosukee people, and we honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it for generations. May we continue to learn how to be better stewards of the land we now inhabit. UU Miami is a community of brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers, and we invite you to learn more about us. You can go to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, our web pages, or you can email me at minister@uumiami.org, or there's our church phone number up there, 305-667-3697. You know, this morning, you probably noticed that there is water around in one way or fashion around here, because today we're participating in a uniquely Unitarian Universalist ritual, the water communion. In 1980, two Unitarian Universalist women, Carolyn McDade and Lucille Shook Longview, were asked to create a worship service for the Women and Religion Continental Convocation of Unitarian Universalists. And they shaped that service. They wanted a ritual that spoke to the connectedness to one another, the totality of life, and to our planet, this planet Earth. They included a new, inclusive symbol of women's spirituality, water. They write, "Water is more than simply a metaphor. It is elemental and primary, calling forth feelings of awe and reverence, acknowledging that the ocean is considered by many to be a place from which life on our planet came. It is the womb of life, and the amniotic waters surround each of us prenatally. We now realize that this worship service is for us a new story of creation, and we chose water as our symbol of our empowerment." The November service, held in East Lansing, Michigan, was called "Coming Home Like Rivers to the Sea." And as its creators, McDade and Longview, enacted their ritual in the liberating space of a semicircle around a large earthen bowl. They asked 8 different women, each coming from distant places, to bring water. And they did. Water from the Rio Grande, water from rainwater from Maryland, water from the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, and others were poured into the earthen bowl as each bearer described its significance. As the ritual continued, says McDade, water deepened in meaning for us, just as water deepens during its long and winding journey to the sea. In the years since then, many Unitarian Universalist congregations, including this one, have remembered and honored this ritual.
It is the custom in Unitarian Universalist congregations to begin our time together with the lighting of the chalice, a symbol of our religious tradition. I invite you to listen to this reading by Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Laura Horton Ludwig. Let us light our chalice here, and I invite you to light your chalice at home. Fire and water, ancient opposites. Sun and ocean, the cradle of life. Dancing flame and dancing river. We invoke them together today as we kindle our chalice flame.
For those of you who haven't seen that movie Elemental from Disney, I encourage you to do so, because the wonderful messages it has talks about how opposites can attract, how two elements can still coexist, and how it incorporates culture into the whole movie. It's such a wonderful movie. I encourage you to see it. I'm really grateful to be here with you today to share with you a very special story to me. One of my very personal stories. When Reverend Tom told me about the water communion, the first thing that came to my mind when he said water to me was, I'm wearing it on my shirt, was Bruce Lee and his water parable, which I'm going to share with you today. So today, I bring with me a vial of water from my home, a place for me that's significant. It's also the home where my father lived in when he passed away. He lived in this house for over 20 years. And it was the place where I would come visit him. We'd sit and talk, have dinners together. A home that after he passed away, I moved into with my granddaughter and made into a home for myself. So this water taken from a faucet just steps away from where my brother found his body just a few days after April Fool's. And the weekend before Easter Sunday, he had passed in his sleep. The cause, unknown. But the reality was he was gone. He wasn't on this earth. That fateful day was unreal to my family. The force that was my dad, the man I grew up with, now seemingly silent. Yet his presence was still felt and his energy was somehow still surrounding us. In those days that follow, I would recall my father's teachings, my father's life. She knows how important my father is to me, so she comes to comfort me. It's always difficult for me to share. I'm good. So in those days that follow, I would recall my father's teachings, my father's life. I would recall those moments when my father would sit with my siblings and I down for what he used to call adult college conversations. 8 years old, about as her age, my dad would sit me down. I'm not going to talk to you like a child. I'm going to talk to you like an adult. And it was during those times that he would impart his wisdom to us. So my father, right there, you can see him on the screen. He's the one at the bottom. My father to me was like Ricky Ricardo and Bruce Lee wrapped up into one. Because like Desi Arnaz, he was a hot-headed Cuban with a heart of gold and very kind eyes. And like Bruce Lee, he was part Chinese, strong and agile, and a philosopher of life. These two cultural icons represented my heritage. Yes, I'm Cuban and I am Chinese, and they also resembled my father. They were also fathers. My father used to sit with me to watch Bruce Lee movies back in the 1970s and 80s, episodes of Star Trek, which incidentally was produced by Desi Arnaz, if you don't know that. And then we'd watch these programs and he'd strike up conversations about the lessons I learned from watching those movies and shows. It was through my dad's passion for the martial arts I learned a few things. He shared with me some of Bruce Lee's teachings in a book he bought. Can't remember the name of it, but it bore a blue cover and the silhouette of the Kung Fu master, and it shared many of his martial art poses and his philosophies of life, one which struck me during my grief after my father's passing. As I began to recall the things that my father used to share with me, first it was about the serenity prayer. And knowing the things I cannot change, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change what I can, the wisdom to the difference. But the part of this prayer that helped me move through the heartache of losing him was in discerning the wisdom to know the difference. As a kid, I never quite understood this. As I got older, I started to understand a little more. It was there in that particular part of that prayer that I learned it was about control. About letting go of control and to flow and be like water. You see, I have a fascination with water. You can see my home aquarium right there on the screen. I love the beach, although I don't visit it enough. I love the ocean and the life that dwells in it. It's probably why I have a saltwater aquarium in my home. I can sit for moments, many, many moments, in front of my tank, listening to the water from the filtration system crash on the surface of the waters. I hear the water crashing here in this little vase in front of me. Something about it just brings peace. Something about it, brings feelings and thoughts. And in my tank, I would gaze into the life that dwells in it, and it reminds me of the nature of life. And sometimes it helps me see life from a different perspective. It calms my mind to focus. You see, water is the softest substance in the world, but it can penetrate the hardest rock, as you see it coming through all these rocks inside this vase right here. It's unsubstantial. You cannot grab it or hold it. When it reaches an obstacles it can't pass through, it finds its way around. And if it lays still for long enough, it evaporates. But it doesn't cease to exist. It finds its way back to earth through rain, through condensation, to bring nourishment, to bring life. It finds a way. And through this thought and through the science that has taught us that the same water that the dinosaurs drank is the same water that we drink today. Think about that for a moment. These massive creatures that lived, we still drink the same water they did. Like water, which I consume and goes in me and through me, it nourishes me and brings me a healthier life. So then I realize my Father isn't really gone. His presence still courses within me and my family and my granddaughter like a tide, and then flows through me when I share his memories like I am today, and his teachings, which I'm imparting with you now, and his love, like right now. He's simply just taken a different shape. And he becomes the force that shapes the lives of my family and the people that we get to touch when we share those stories, when we talk about them. So in the famous words of one of my father heroes, and mine too, be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, and it becomes the bottle. You put water in a teapot, guess what? It becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. So be water, my friend. So flow through the universe is the only thing you can control, your movements, your actions, how you give back to the world, and through the wisdom, through this wisdom about being water, let's discover gratitude, peace, love. Be water, my friends, and also remember that in the water we can see the reflections of ourselves, and we see the reflection of the nature around us. For water is not just the force that flows and adapts, but on its surface, it's a mirror to show us that which we cannot always see and remind us to look deeper. I finish with a quote from a kindred spirit that I found in Bruce Lee's daughter Shannon Lee in her book. I just recently read this book. It's in a magnificent book. She shares the teachings of her father in there. I find her a kindred spirit. And in the book she says, "And thus begins our intimate relationship with water, an element that is soft yet strong, natural yet able to be directed, detached yet powerful, and above all, essential to life." Thank you.
For those of you joining us online, I invite you to take out your smartphone, open the camera app, and direct it at our QR code. It will open to the UU Miami donation page, or you can go directly to uumiami.org and click on the donate button. Please check if the donation is a donation or part of your pledge to our congregation. This will help us allocate your funds properly. Those of you joining us in the sanctuary today, there will be a basket coming around, or you are welcome to use our QR code as well. Today, you will have the opportunity to not only donate to this congregation, but also to Florida Rising. They describe themselves as a nonprofit that organizes multiracial movements to win elections, change laws, and create a state where everyone can be safe, happy, healthy, and whole. They advocate for economic and racial justice across Florida. They build independent power that centers on historically marginalized communities, so everyday Floridians shape the future of this state. This congregation is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place and the work we do in the world, for we are now keepers of the dream.
It is appropriate for today, or last night anyway. It was really raining. In the website Religion World in the article Religion and Water, the Most Sacred of Relationship, it reads, in Islam, water is important for cleansing and purifying. In the early days of Islam, Muslims lived in the desert, so they were very concerned about water conservation. The noble Quran mentions the Arabic word for water, ma, 63 times. We can well imagine each prophet, may Allah bless them all, has an intimate story with water. The prophet Adam, peace be upon him, was made from water. Allah, which is the name for God in Islam, took a handful of dust and earth and mixed it with the colors white, black, yellow, and red. That is the reason why people are born with different colors. When Allah mixed the dust with water, it poured into potter's clay, it turned into potter's clay that made a sound. It fermented and had a smell. Iblis, which is the name of Satan in Islam, passed by, wondering what was going to be made of that clay. From the clay, Allah created Adam. He molded his form with his own hands and blew his spirit into him. Adam's body quivered as life was imbued into it. Muslims must be ritually pure before approaching God in prayer. Some mosques have a courtyard with a pool of clear water in the center. But in most mosques, the ablutions are found outside the walls. Fountains symbolizing purity are also sometimes found in mosques. In Islam, ritual purity called tahara is required before carrying out religious duties, especially worship. Water has a central place in the practices and beliefs of many religions, including Unitarian Universalism. Our water communion symbolizes our interconnections as a congregation and our connection to the interdependent web of all existence. Water is also central to our child dedications, affirming the children's connections to this community and to the interconnected web of all existence. Water from our water communions is often used in other rituals in Unitarian Universalism congregations, for blessings of a home, for blessings of volunteers and staff, for blessings of our religious education teacher. It has been used in many different ways, in many different blessings over the years in my ministry. For some Unitarian Universalists, water holds specific spiritual and emotional meaning. Water might represent the existence of life here on earth. Water might represent the existence of water within us. We are 60% water. We need to drink water in order to survive. And life on this planet was developed in the nutrient-rich waters of the ancient seas. For some, water is used not only to cleanse their bodies, but to also cleanse or purify the emotional or spiritual baggage they carry. We also are at the mercy of water, the storms, the floods, the drought, the hurricanes. For some of us, acknowledging the power of water forms a tenet of our spiritual beliefs. As Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, water is fluid, soft, and yielding. But water will wear away a rock which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft, and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. This is a paradox. What is soft is strong. Unitarian Universalist Reverend Kevin Tarsa believes that this drip, drip, drip of what is soft and fluid and yielding is within us. And it is what in fact makes us strong. He says, to do everything, I mean everything, with courageous love. From expressing your feelings honestly to imagining what this community could do if pooled and channeled its energy in the world. To love courageously. Again and again, drip, 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 our energies. Because it will mean for you as well as us to love courageously in the world, anchored in the strength that comes with the vulnerability of uncertainty, of risk, of emotional exposure, of no guarantees. Drip, 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 our courageous love, keeping our sense of wonder open at all times. Especially when we believe we have the right answer and the person across from us, well, they think they have the right answer too. Drip, drip, drip. Courageous love within us cultivating our spiritual and emotional and intellectual strength through its persistence and willingness to face and find our way through uncertainty, risk, with honesty and courage. Within us, drip, 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 courageous love, risking emotional exposure, committed to intellectual acuity, all the while holding on to our emotional and spiritual strength. Drip, 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 finding meaning, feeling and living compassion, being vulnerable enough to receive each other's compassion, to be honest, sometimes finding and facing the healthy limits of compassion. Courageous love within us like water, drip, drip, drip. It begins again and again, dripping from us into the world, so that we as a congregation express our courageous love to each other and bring it out into the world. May this congregation affirm the drip, drip, drip of its courageous love during this, our communal water ritual.
We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living beneath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living the great Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
It is our custom to offer water as a symbol of our connection to one another. This morning, we're going to do our water communion in 4 parts. Whatever water you have brought, you will be invited to share all or part of it during each of 3 parts. For those of you who did not bring water, there are pitchers at each table that you can use to pour. I encourage you to speak a few words over your water as you pour it. In other words, what it symbolizes in your life, what you are releasing from your past, what changes you wish to affirm, or what your hopes are for the coming year for you and for this congregation. Of these 4 tables, the first here represents storms and healing. You'll be invited to share your water if it represents your life's storms, your concerns, worries, frustrations, and losses. Pouring the water acknowledges that you have survived your storms and grounds you in your healing from those storms. The second table represents the water of journey and change. You're invited to share water that symbolizes travel, movement, and change. Pouring this water acknowledges your physical, emotional, and spiritual journeys and grounds you in the ways these journeys have changed your life. The third table, the waters of sustenance and communion. You'll be invited to share water that represents your wellspring of life. Pouring this water acknowledges the physical, emotional, and spiritual sustenance you received in this life and the sustenance you receive from this community, and grounds you in your connections to this beloved community. The fourth table represents the lack of water that brings drought. You may find that after you have gone to each of these 3 tables, that you have little or no water left. May you be reminded then that while some enjoy abundance, others struggle with scarcity. And instead of water, what we will offer are our prayers and concerns for those in scarcity, be it water or in other resources. Perhaps in that prayer you will be moved to make a personal commitment toward aiding and journeying with those who are experiencing scarcity. There is no single right way to participate in this deeply personal ritual. You may feel moved to share in multiple pails. We, your faith community, acknowledge that your spiritual waters are uniquely yours, and we honor whatever process works for you in this spiritual journey. In a moment, I will invite you who wish to come forward silently to share your water that represents your life storms, your concerns, your worries, frustrations, and losses. Allow this vessel to be one of receiving and healing as it absorbs your storms. You're welcome to speak some private words over your water as you pour it into the pail, or you may pour it into the pail without saying anything at all. These are your words, offered as waves, not as waves, but as ripples. Offer what you will as you pour. If you are more comfortable staying seated, Carly at the end will bring the pail to you with some water. Those of you who wish to share some water in this first table of storms and healing may come forward now. In a moment, I will invite you up to come up and silently bring your water to this pail that symbolizes travel, movement, and change. That represents the transformations you have experienced as a result of journeys, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. You're welcome to speak a few private words as you pour, or you may pour in silence. Keep in mind that these words that you offer are not waves, but ripples that travel among us. If you are more comfortable staying seated, Carly can bring the water to you. I ask that you just raise your hand so that she can do that. I forgot to do that in our last one, but if you need help, please ask. Please now, as you wish, come forward to pour your water of travels and journey. The third table, sustenance and communion. In a moment, I'll invite you to come up in silence and share your water that represents the well springs in your life. I invite you to bring the water that symbolizes what sustains you when you are feeling empty, the joys that give you hope and buoy you up. Let the pouring of this water ground you in your connections to this loving community. You're welcome to speak a few private words over your water as you pour it in, or you may pour it silently. Let the words be offered not as waves, but as ripples. I invite you now to come forward if you wish to pour into the water of sustenance and communion. And now let us bring our attention to the fourth table. In the spirit of prayer or meditation, let us observe its emptiness and acknowledge the emptiness in our own containers. Our sharing of water reminds us that we live in abundance. However, there are others on this earth who struggle with scarcity of food, love, safety. Let us hold them in our hearts. Let us send our love and caring. Perhaps you may be moved to make a personal commitment toward aiding and journeying with those experiencing scarcity. And may this, our beloved community, always be a place of generosity for any who enter our doors and for those whose lives that we are called to touch beyond these walls. May this container empty of water remind us also of those who lack safe and affordable water. May this empty pail be for us a symbol of our solidarity with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and all those around the world who are seeking toward water equity for every human being. Let us hold in our hearts farmers in Maui, California, the Northwest Territories, throughout the world who've lost crops and livestock because of drought and fire. May we continue to mindfully support the thousands upon thousands of people who have lost everything due to drought and fire. We are part of the interdependent web of all existence, and thus we affirm that what affects one strand of the web ultimately affects all strands of the web. Let us each in our own hearts make a commitment to increase our awareness of our water use and to commit to learn more about the places on our planet where there is drought, where there is fire, where there is shortage on our blue boat home. We are blessed in this community. Let us bless those in need throughout our planet. Our blue boat home.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in hymn number 1064 in our teal book, what I've heard described as the UU equivalent of Amazing Grace, Blue Boat Home.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land next to the waves upholding me. Hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
To close our water communion, I ask you to join me in a responsive reading. Your response is, "This water is sacred." It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love, the many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by commitment and faith. This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of its members. This water is sacred. May it continue to nurture this community with sustaining hope that we journey together through ripples of growth and change. This water is sacred. May it continue to bless this community with loving reminders of our collective responsibility to one another and to the world. This water is sacred. May its ripples be a reminder of the changes and growth within this community and bring movement and transformation to the world beyond our doors. This water is sacred. May its purity offer grace to our community and the willingness to forgive ourselves and one another when we make mistakes. In moments when we are confused or uncertain, may it bring us clarity of purpose and commitment. In the moments when the reservoirs of hearts and spirits are drained by sorrow or pain, may it nourish them with the knowledge that we are surrounded by deep and abundant love. Amen. Well, now we come to an end. We offer gratitude and make announcements and bring us to a point where then we can have lunch. And thanks. I want to thank everybody, our staff, our volunteer staff, all the people that work so hard to keep this congregation going, our business manager, Cheryl, our child care workers, our Luz, who does our yoga, Steve, who's doing our slides, Joseph, who plays amazing hymns, and Carly, who's with us this morning to help us sing and to sing some beautiful music for us, and Jessica for her wonderful story. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. And as you are doing this water communion, if there are pieces that you want to share with others, I hope you take time during lunch to share some of your stories of journey or storms or sustenance. This is our time, our community, to share such stories. Please watch in your weekly email newsletter about what's coming up, or you can ask me. I'll make sure that you get that, or look at our website. Lunch is coming up for $5. Please thank Luigi for lunch today. And those of you who are brand new here, don't pay for lunch. This is on us today. After lunch, you get to play drums. Woo! If you've never been to a drum circle, or if you have, you didn't bring a drum, there's drums to be, and you can play. No experience necessary. On Saturday mornings, please do join us for morning meditation. There's a link on our website for that if you're interested. Next week, I will be preaching about loving and teaching our children. During the service, I will bless our Director of Religious Exploration with some of the water of our water communion today, and offer child dedications to any child in our communion, our congregation who wishes their child to be dedicated. After the dedication, there'll be the first religious exploration class. And so please join Jessica in those religious education classes for our children. And after the service, I will offer a class on what the heck is religion anyway, in preparation for our year-long study of the world religions. Let me offer these words as we close our service. They're written by Unitarian Universalist Reverend K.L. Rice. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water bubbling toward its destination, and finally the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today you brought water, poured it in common pails. Though our experiences have differed, these waters mingled, signifying our common humanity, our common community. Today you come and share and depart this sacred space. Hearts filled with hope for new meanings, a fresh start. Go forth, my friends, but return to this community where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls are watered, where your joy bubbles, and when your life cup overflows. Where deep in your spirit you have found a place, a spiritual home. May all rivers run to the sea. I invite you now to stand and turn and greet one another, especially those you don't know. Let us bond one another as a community. And Joseph, will you play us a little something to end this service?